The Wild Boars of Madness. Chapter 17. Ambush.
When the militia captain and his group encountered Lao Yang's returning party, they had a faint sense that Lao Yang's group had locked onto the wild boar's trail. The captain grabbed Lao Yang, saying, Yang, where did the wild boar go?" Lao Yang replied, "It entered the Fallen Leaf Valley." The captain showed an incredulous expression. Lao Yang's companions informed the captain, "This group of wild boars entered the Valley of Fallen Leaves. There's a 99% chance they won't come back out unless they become lackeys under the mountain god of the Valley of Fallen Leaves, patrolling the mountain at intervals. If that's the case, you might see them next time. But these pigs, if they've taken on a divine role, might be off limits for hunting." The captain burst into laughter. "In this brand new society, only you guys still spread fetal superstitions. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at?" "Those, you people," retorted. "It's easy for you to say. If that's the case, would you dare to enter the valley? Not for hunting, but just spend the night inside the Valley of Fallen Leaves. We'll call it that from then on." The captain was speechless, his face turning red. He had to pull Liang to the back of the mountain and whispered, Yang, are you sure the wild boar entered the Valley of Fallen Leaves?" Lao Yang replied, "Absolutely certain. The footprints walked into it, and this layer of new snow only has tracks going in." The captain, excitedly rubbing his hands, said, Yang, how are you planning to hunt them?" Lao Yang said, "We need to go back and discuss with team leader and the other companions. Whether we hunt or not, I can't say for sure. However, we found these tracks first. You have to abide by the mountain rules. If tomorrow we say we won't hunt, then you can take action." The captain said, Of course. I see there are 4, 5, maybe 6 big wild boars in these tracks. Your dozen or so people might not have time to prepare. How about we join forces and tackle this together?" Lao Yang said he couldn't decide on that, and suggested they discuss it together by going back to find team leader. While chatting, Lao Yang's sharp ears picked up the low roar from the Valley of Fallen Leaves. Being closest to the valley entrance, he heard the low roar distinctly. Lao Yang told the captain, "Quickly, have your men extinguish their torches. The prey is coming, and we don't want to disturb the quiet." Everyone lay hidden at the disorderly stones at the base of the mountain, facing the high platform directly ahead. Holding their breath, they listened intently and observed the movement at the mouth of the slope. A low, resonant sound reached their ears again, this time even closer. Without time to disperse and set up, they were all crowded together. The captain whispered, "Better to face it head on. If we meet on this narrow road, no one can blame whoever comes first. You guys only brought hunting knives, while we brought an extra blunderbuss. After capturing the prey, we'll be in charge of the distribution." Lao Yang's group remained silent, and the captain gestured for his men to pass the musket over. The blunderbuss was already loaded with gunpowder and bullets. After a careful check, they gently released the safety, opened the firing chamber, filled it with ignition charge from a small gourd, pressed it tight, pulled the firing hammer up, inserted a mercury fulminate paper into the firing mechanism. Everything was ready and they held it in front of their chests. The wild boars were social animals, often moving in groups of 2 or 3. In no time, 2 black shadows along the opposite high platform descended, treading on dry leaves and remnants of snow, moving down the slope. That particular area was shrouded in shadow beyond the blunderbuss's range. Lao Yang's group had recently lingered near the high platform, and the 2 black shadows might have detected the scent of humans on the ground. After digging around for a while, apparently finding nothing unusual, they grunted a couple of times and continued along the slope, entering the river valley. On the riverbank, the accumulated snow gleamed a bluish-white hue, and moonlight spilled over from the riverbed. The spotted pig weighed more than 200 pounds. It wasn't just 2. It was a group. 2 large pigs were accompanied by a group of piglets. The number of piglets was indeterminate, looking like no fewer than 7 or 8. They stuck closely to the legs of the large pigs, moving in single file. The captain's eyes sparkled with excitement. He whispered, "Heavens have favored us tonight, a stroke of luck. Yang, you guys stay hidden on the side. I'll take my men to ambush behind the ridge on the opposite high platform, near the edge of the slope by the entrance of the Valley of Fallen Leaves. When the flower-patterned pigs return from foraging, it shouldn't take more than an hour or 2. You release them when you hear our gunshots, and we'll send with them from both sides. If more spotted pigs come out of the Valley of Fallen Leaves, we'll let you know. and you can take action again. Gunshots will be the signal. You guys block them below. It'll be a two-pronged attack. The blunderbuss shows no mercy, so be careful to avoid it. Oh. It's a pity we didn't bring larger animal steel traps. Without waiting for Liang to respond, the captain, along with his men, moved along the shadow at the base of the mountain, crouching down to set up the ambush on the opposite side. Liang had mixed feelings, hoping the pigs wouldn't return yet also wishing to successfully hunt them for a good feast. After wrestling with these conflicting thoughts, he regretfully slapped his forehead, realizing his negligence. He hadn't expected to find their trail so quickly. Without deploying the entire group, they had allowed the others to seize the initiative. Indeed, in less than an hour, under the moonlight, the group of spotted pigs reappeared on the wide riverbank. Near the riverbank stood a twisted-necked tall oak tree, growing on the sandy shore, with a crooked and twisted trunk over 10 meters tall. It was lush with branches and leaves, and the trunk was too large for one person to encircle. Estimated to be 1,000 years old, it was surrounded by a few scattered sandalwood bushes. The pigs lingered in the tree's shadow for a moment, rooting around on the ground and rubbing against the tree, then proceeded toward the slope. By now, the moon had shifted westward, and the slope at the entrance of the Valley of Fallen Leaves was immersed in the vast shadows of the mountains. In the shadowy area, only the mottled white snow emitted a faint glow. Grunt, grunt, grunt. The spotted pigs moved from the moonlight into the shadows, their shapes barely visible, alongside the high platform, retracing their steps. They soon entered the ambush circle. Lao Yang's group unsheathed their hunting knives, hidden under the fallen leaves, and suddenly crawled forward. Lao Yang's heart hung in his throat. Bang! The muffled sound of a blunderbuss echoed at the valley entrance, resonating between the walls of the crevice canyon. A burst of flames erupted behind the ridge of the high platform, and within the fiery glow, a spotted pig emerged, silhouetted against the enormous black shadow. 3 or 4 hunting knives whizzed through the air, gleaming with a cold light. Ha! A pig's cry echoed from the slope.